Greetings and bienvenue, Midnight Crew. Thank you for returning to this broadcast. And welcome to new viewers joining us for the first time. If you like a video, then feel free to subscribe.
In this thread, personal ghost stories. Be 11 or 12. Live in a 50-year-old house. Be midnight. Hear footsteps approaching the room. Oh shit, it's Mom. Better pretend I'm asleep. Mom usually comes to check on me before 10 p.m. Hear the door open. Footsteps come right up to the bed. Mom usually waits at the door. Suddenly whispering starts, like two people are having a quiet conversation. Make out the word children. Sense a warm, affectionate feeling. Suddenly silent. Open my eyes. The door is closed, though I never heard it do so. The room is empty.
Just moved into this house. It is an old farmhouse off the train tracks. Large abandoned fields for cows, all that jazz. One day in December, it just finished snowing. My mother's friend is visiting, and a student renting a room in the house is there. It's getting pretty late, really dark. So what we saw was a surprise. Keep in mind, this was the outskirts of town, not a residential area. The closest signs of civilization was a highway. See a man walk across our lawn. He had a hat with a pom-pom. He came from the direction of the highway towards the cow pasture and train tracks. My mother's friend gets mad at him, takes the student out to tell him to fuck off. We went to another window to watch. The pom-pom guy was gone. They just stand there. They come back inside. There were no tracks. Don't look out the window at night during the winter again. Mother goes to bed one night. Soon feels something crawl in with her. She shrugs it off as the dog. Realizes the dog has been dead for years, and we moved over 4 hours away from it. She sits up and just watches the place at the end of the bed, where something is sleeping with her is sunken in. And another. Sitting on Mom's bed with sisters, there's a clear view of the kitchen. The fridge is right there. Mom has a bunch of family photos and quotes on the fridge. Sister is just staring at the spot in front of it. Mom comes in, asks what she is looking at. Mom, I thought Anon bro renting room moved out. He did. Then who is looking at the pictures on the fridge? Fucking no one was there. Not saying the guy renting the room died, my sister couldn't really tell people apart. I am pretty sure he moved out because of the creepy shit that would happen in the basement he slept in. The basement is huge. It was a playroom, but we didn't go down there because we got bad vibes, man. Doors would slam in the night. The toilet down there would flush on its own. Lights would always be off if you left them on, no matter what. Be playing Pokemon down there. Feel something behind me. I am home alone for a few minutes. This shit became completely normal to me. I start explaining the game to no one. Mom comes back. Suddenly the bathroom door slams. The presence is gone. Nope, the fuck out of there. I am a pretty bad storyteller, sorry.
Visit family because of a funeral. My aunt died. Slept in her house that night. Slept in the room next to the one she died in. Around 12 a.m., after lurking on 4chan on my smartphone, I went to bed. Tucked myself in bed. Start getting really cold for some reason. Shift uncontrollably in bed. Open my eyes and look up. Black smoke hovering above me, almost touching the ceiling. See eyes through the blackness of that smoke. I screamed. No noise, nothing. I was completely silenced, followed by a heavy press against my chest. Like someone was keeping me pinned down in my bed. Couldn't help but struggle until I blinked for a moment. The smoke and eyes were gone. The pressing stopped. Lurked on 4chan all night after. Could only assume I pissed off her spirit, but how? I don't even fucking know. Just glad it was over.
Here is one my mom told me from the house we lived in when I was a baby. Don't feel like Greentexting. Part 1. The house was on Wightman Street. It used to be a cat house back in the day. On more than one occasion, our first dogs, Bobo and Tequila, would bring bones out from under our house. Once Bobo brought out something that was definitely a human arm bone. My dad put it in the snake's cage for a while until my mom made him get rid of it. It made the activity in the house worse. Weird stuff happened in the house all the time. Footsteps, voices, breathing, things being moved. Sometimes my crib would shake or the rocking chair would move even though no one was messing with them. You always felt like you were being watched. Sometimes Bobo would see something and freak out and run to my side and get really protective of me. He would growl and snap at whatever it was he was seeing, or grab my diaper or shirt and drag me out of the room. The house was just a really dark place. My room had the most activity, and if she could avoid it, my mom wouldn't leave me in there. There were 2 instances in particular that scared the shit out of my mom. Okay, first one. One night my mom was home alone and heard weird breathing through my baby monitor, like growling. It was really raspy, and occasionally she would hear like a low moan. At first she thought it was me when it was just raspy, since I had a cold, but as it started growling she got really freaked out. She went into my room to see what was up and Bobo refused to go in my room with her. And this dog never left my side. Normally, if anything was creeping around, he was right there to try to protect me. But this had him so scared he started whimpering and backed out of the room, freaked out. My mom thought this was weird but wasn't really too concerned. She checked on me, and I was fine, sleeping like a rock. She checked to see how I was breathing, pulled her grandmother's rosary out of a drawer and hung it up on the wall, and went back out to the living room. My uncle, Dad's brother, arrived a couple minutes later, and they sat down to watch a movie and eat. 5 minutes into the movie, they started hearing shit in the baby monitor again. This time it was loud growling and muffled voices. As her and my uncle got up to check out what the fuck was going on, Bobo started scratching at my door frantically. When they went in, he started whining and barking again, and would go to dart in, then turn around and run out. When they went in, it was dead cold in my room. I was still asleep. The rosary she had put up was on the floor in pieces. I was too young to reach that high, or roll over for that matter. She grabbed me, and as they left the room, she said she could feel something watching her. All the hair on her body was standing on end. My uncle stayed over that night 'cause my mom was too freaked out to stay in the house alone. Second one. So my dad had this poster on the wall. It was on the wall opposite the shower, so outside the bathroom, since my parents moved in. My mom hated it. It was a Venom poster with a goat head on it. Anyways, my mom said it always felt like the eyes were following her. And right after Dad put the poster up, my mom started hearing whispering in the shower. Muffled so you couldn't hear what was being said, but you could tell it was a person speaking. When she finally bitched my dad into taking it down, they could not get it off the wall. It seemed stuck there. They eventually got it down, but there was absolutely no reason for it to have been stuck like that. I have a bunch more to post. Weird has happened to me all my life. My mom claims the women on her side of the family are sensitive. I don't know if I rightly believe that, but I always seem to be around when creepy shit is going down. I think it was 2001 when my uncle died. He was always really close to me. Him and my cousins lived upstairs from me most of my life. After the creepy house on Wightman, I went to live with my grandma, then went back to live with my dad when I was 12. I remember very vividly after he died playing in my room one day and getting up to go to the bathroom. The hallway was a little room with a door on each wall, one for my room, one for my grandma's, one for the bathroom, and one that led to the living room. All the doors were closed, so when I opened mine, it was the only source of light. When I opened it, I saw my uncle standing there. He had been reaching for my door. Before I could even think, I just ran up and hugged him as tight as I could. He was cold, but I didn't think about that. At the time, I was just so caught up I didn't even realize until later he had passed. I cried for a couple minutes as he hugged me back. He said he has to go now, but to be a good boy and take care of Grandma. And then he was gone. I still remember him so vividly. He was wearing his old jeans and a Pantera shirt. This happened to my second cousin. She may be my first cousin. I have no clue. I have a large family. I think it was like a couple years ago, maybe like 2 or 3. She was studying at the body farm to be a medical examiner or something. And at first she had little things happen in her apartment. Things would be moved, she would hear sounds. It seemed the more time she spent there, the more intense things got at home. Like something was following her home. The first time she actually saw something, it was a little boy. He was following behind her, giggling. She would feel him tug on her fingers or toes sometimes when she was sleeping. He was definitely not a dark entity. Then she started seeing things outside of her home, and something dark followed her home. She quit the body farm and moved after something pinned her down one night and choked her. Things started to settle down after she left.
B15. Done with my daily use of the internet. Turn it off and watch TV for a bit. Suddenly I heard a noise from outside my room. We, me, stepdad, mom, and bro, lived in an apartment on the 3rd floor at the time. I recognized the sound as the door opening. Checked the clock next to my bed. It reads somewhere around 3:30 a.m., closer to 3:20 I think. Stepdad, mom, and brother are definitely asleep by now. Oh shit. Lie down and pretend I'm asleep. Out of the corner of my eye, I can see the hallway light turned on. Snap my eyes shut. Can hear the door swing open. Even though my eyes are closed, I can see the light from the hallway pour into my room. You know, when your eyes are closed and you can tell when lights are on and shit. Hear the carpet being stepped on, walking, particularly in my direction. My heart's racing, too scared to open my eyes. Fall asleep eventually. Wake up. Even though it's day, I still think it's not, and spaz out for a brief moment. The same experience has never happened again.
My dad took me and my cousin camping. I was like 12, she was 14, at Lake Marina. It was early spring, so it got cold at night. We knew the place was haunted. My dad goes camping there at least twice a year. There are plenty of stories of sounds and pictures with orbs and whatnot. There is a lady in white by these big rocks, and sometimes you can see an outline of someone by them. My dad has a picture of him jokingly putting his arm around an empty space in front of the rocks, and when the pictures were developed, this was before digital cameras were big, there was a white orb right next to him. When it was time to go to bed, my dad got in his tent just a couple feet away from us, and my cousin and I got in ours. We decided to zip our sleeping bags into one big one with a blanket wadded up between us to stay warm. There were other people in the area, but they all went to bed a bit after us. I was having trouble falling asleep, so after about an hour, it was maybe 1 a.m., I took out my iPod Shuffle I had brought with me,
Hadn't used it all day, so the battery was fully charged. I turned it on and tried to fall asleep. After maybe 15 minutes, my iPod turned off by itself and wouldn't turn back on. I could hear my cousin breathing on the other side of the blanket and my dad snoring a couple feet away in his tent. The tent got really cold all of a sudden, like noticeably colder than it had been, and I started hearing footsteps around the tent. I tried to ignore it, thinking maybe someone else was walking by to use the bathroom, but the footsteps were circling my tent. I hid down in my sleeping bag and tried to ignore it. After a little while longer, the footsteps stopped, and the blanket filled in between my cousin and I got really cold. I started hearing this raspy breathing right next to me, and could feel the space in the middle of the air mattress being pressed down like someone was laying in between my cousin and me. I noped down as far as I could into my part of the sleeping bag for what felt like hours, listening to my cousin breath, my dad snore, and whatever it was in between us wheezing. All at once, the space in between us and the tent warmed up and my iPod came back on. It had been on full volume, so it scared the shit out of me. The next morning she said she hadn't heard anything, but she felt the bed move like someone was laying in between us. She said she had just thought I had rolled over next to her or something.
Earlier this year, a friend who moved away came back for a week. She wanted to check out a supposedly haunted cemetery. I oblige, and we head off 2 hours away. A neighborhood had been built up around this graveyard, with only a straight dirt path big enough for one car existing behind a row of houses. We respectfully walk around the small plot at around midnight. 2 red and white balls appear out of nowhere. Thought it was flashlights, so we ducked, but the lights just stayed. Staring too long at the lights made your vision go really weird. The sky would go red, and the trees would start moving. Really weird stuff I don't have words able to convey. I moved closer and closer. When I was about 30 feet away, a pair of headlights caught my attention from the dirt path. Saw a car go through a residential fence with no damage to the car or fence. No hum of the engine, no sound of tires. Just silence. I hid behind a tombstone. The car pulled up to the wrought iron gate of the graveyard, then turned around and drove away slowly. My friend and I hauled ass out of there.
Be sitting in my bed next to my brother reading new books we got for Christmas together. Suddenly see movement out of the corner of my eye. The shadow of a small hand is moving across the headboard of my bed, fingers crawling like a spider towards my brother's head. Look at my brother, he's chattering away, absorbed in his book, both hands on it. No one else in the room, the shadow still moving. Nope, under the covers.
Lol, you didn't try to warn him?
Everyman for himself.
Ha ha, you're a terrible sibling.
Hey, give me a break, I was just a little twerp myself at the time. I was scared shitless, I hated that bedroom. I never knew what to expect. For instance, almost every night this shuffling would happen in my closet. Banging, like someone was walking around in there. I even got up the nerve to go check it out a couple times, and I'd find all my stuff moved around, some missing, but no one there. There was one other room I hated, and that was the basement. I can't explain why, but I knew something really bad had happened down there. Every time I was down there, I'd get goosebumps and chills. Mind you, this wasn't a creepy basement. My parents had rigged it out as a sort of underground playroom for us, with TVs, game stations, toys, a foosball table. It should have been awesome. I always felt like I wasn't meant to be down there, though. like something really didn't want to be disturbed. In my room, I never sensed anything evil or malicious. Mischievous, yes, but not evil. The basement gave me the worst vibes. Doors would suddenly slam closed down there. Stuff would move from where I put it. Drinks would be spilled when no one else was down there to do it. When I went exploring a little, this was a huge basement. In a couple of the side rooms, I found very shifty-looking dark stains on the floor. A couple rooms my parents hadn't bothered carpeting, as we used them for storage and whatnot. Basically, the whole house was one big nope experience.
In the last few years since 2 of my grandparents' deaths, some strange things have been happening. Be sitting on the bed, browsing on my laptop and whatnot. The bed suddenly shakes a little, as if someone had just sat on it. Think I may have moved unconsciously, and it rattled the bed. This kept on happening at random times throughout the years. I would try to recreate the slight bed shaking to confirm that it was just a slight movement of mine, but I could never make it shake so slightly like that, even with the smallest of my movements. I later found out that my mum had been experiencing the same things, where she'd think one of the cats jumped onto her bed, only to find there was no cat in the room. Another quite related. Be sitting on the bed with my cat. She keeps looking into the corner of the room just to the right of me. She freaking growls. Keeps doing this a few times. Nope.avi. What's strange about this one is that when my cat was younger, she would growl at any humans other than us. If she saw the postman, she would growl at him, and she'd even growl at people simply walking by the garden. That's the only time she would growl like that, upon seeing a human. So it's clear she was growling at something humanoid.
Be around 7. My stepfather moves us out to a farm out in the middle of nowhere, tons of land. The house was very haunted. I shared a room with my little sister. Would wake up about 3 times a month to her standing over my bed, eyes wide open, staring at me. Always at the same time, 4:15. Whenever I would try to talk to her, she would just smile wider. At exactly 4:30, she would get back into her bed and fall asleep. My sister had no recollection of it in the morning. Other nights I would wake up being pushed off my bed. No one there. Be around 9. Come to ignore most of the scary shit going on. Have a lab and chow mix named Buster. Buster always ran around wherever he wanted and would come home if he heard you whistle for him. One day Buster doesn't come home, won't respond to a whistle, and we can't find him anywhere. Super depressed. About 3 weeks later, I took a walk out in the fields. See Buster derping around about 50 feet away. Excited, calling his name and whistling for him. Buster stops what he's doing and looks at me. He takes 1 step forward and disappears into thin air. Never see Buster again. Be about 18. We had moved out of the farm, but still living with my parents, working at a bakery, frying donuts alone at around 2 a.m. Hear someone call my name. Think it's my ears playing tricks on me. The voice gets louder. Anon! 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 Turn around, no one there. A lot of my co-workers had the same thing happen to them. One of the ladies even saw her dead mother shopping there, wearing an outfit of hers that my co-worker had in her closet.
Probably just my imagination at the time, being a derp, etc. Be last month or so. Be visiting my aunt and uncle in Vermont, not Bel Air. The house isn't old, a little over 20 years. My aunt shows me to the room upstairs. Used to be my cousin's. Nighttime is extremely quiet. It's creepy, coming from a city dweller such as myself. Be about 2 or 3 a.m. or so at night. Sitting in bed, can't fall asleep. Feels like the quiet is suffocating me. Shit was making me panic. I swore I heard voices coming from outside. Lowell, wait. I'm on the second floor, and this house is in the middle of nowhere. Stowe, Vermont, and woods. There's a small TV near the window where the voices are coming from. Unfortunately, no cable upstairs, only static when turned on. Be freaking out because I think I'm hearing voices and shit. See black figures moving around on the TV and reflection of the room. Black figures near my bed. Utterly convince myself that it's just my imagination. Right now I'm getting chills and shit just thinking about it. I'm really surprised I didn't flip my shit that night.
Nearly 2 centuries ago, the area around my mother's house was nothing but woods and farms. All that land belonged to a single family who lived in the manor house. People would come all over to that place when they needed help, sickness, injury, whatever. Not everyone survived, and they were buried around the grassy knoll that is the family plot. That land's been developed into housing, except for the grassy knoll that holds a monument of all the broken headstones from that one family. The remaining forest's been a hotbed of activity. Friends report seeing shadows, a pair of grey ape-like beings guarding the forest entrance, hearing voices, seeing people. I and a friend once witnessed a dark shadow of a man standing on the path before us, but that is not the most interesting case. In the 1960s, when the older part of the neighbourhood was just getting developed, a group took it upon themselves to perform dark magic in the woods. They'd sacrifice animals, mark the trees, and have orgies where no one could see. Pieces of their witchcraft still remain in their burn pits, the marked and rope-bound trees. One particular area has 5 marked trees set in 5 points. A friend and I went back there to investigate, but did not do so empty-handed. I brought with me dragon's blood, a strong incense of protection. Once lit, we stood around and began to investigate the area. That's when the wind picked up. At first it was all around us, blowing hard to make the plants move. It then took direction, causing the underbrush to flow in an uninhibited circle around us. Abruptly, everything stopped, and that's when we saw it. A ghostly figure between the trees. It was a grey-white spectre who flowed just a couple yards before us. It passed from one tree to the next, and then vanished. The whole sighting lasted for a minute. My friend and I looked to each other, confirmed the vision, and promptly left. I have not returned to the forest since. One day, my mother was out puttering in the strawberry patch in the corner of her yard. When she began digging the part where 2 fences come together, she experienced what she calls a waking dream. She saw the yard as it was centuries ago, a place of trees and plants. Among the foliage was a man. He was wounded, bleeding heavily, and sought to rest at a tree by my mother's side. Quickly, he fell asleep and soon died. When my mother's vision returned to reality, she found a large femur bone in her hand. She buried it and has not dug in that corner of the yard ever since. When my mother was a little girl, she and her friends played with a Ouija board. They were attempting to contact a spirit when they got a response. The room became cold. The seat where the marker points caved inward as if someone was sitting in it. She and the other girls screamed and ran away. In a similar experience, I recall being on the computer in my bedroom when I saw activity on my bed. The part closest to me sank, as if someone was sitting down in it. I ran out of the room, only to return later with my mother to find nothing. Later, I explained the situation to my then brother-in-law, who cut an apple in half and hung it over the doorway to my room. No further activity ever happened again.
Laying in bed with my laptop, decided to go to sleep, put my laptop like always on the chair next to my bed. Woke up and it felt like I was dreaming. A girl was sitting on the chair next to my bed. I recognized her, a friend. We were close to being together 4 years ago. Then I remembered she offed herself 4 years ago because of some serious shit. We were having a good conversation about some serious problems I had at this time, and that I sometimes thought it was my fault that she took her life. After a few minutes of talking, she gave me a kiss on the cheek and faded away. Next morning, I woke up thinking that this was just a nice dream, when suddenly, what the fuck, nope. My laptop wasn't on the chair where I put it last night. Nope, it was on the floor. I was thinking, seriously, if you're dead, stop talking to me, darling, and don't touch my laptop again. And then I heard a voice in my head saying, so if that's what you want, and why can't I touch your laptop? Afraid that I'll find your porn. I know it sounds stupid, but seriously, this shit was real. And it wasn't the last time since then that I saw her.
I hope that you enjoyed tonight's broadcast. If you enjoyed tonight's story, then please subscribe to the channel, as more Greentext will appear daily. A new broadcast will appear when the clock strikes midnight Central Time.